What people, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're actually going to do a little thing on the M3. So a couple of little bits and bobs. So the steering rack column, cut to length. I had the desired length from the bloke, so I cut to length. The end one here, this piece is now tigged on. Well, you can see that there. Is that like a little spot? Yeah. What you've got to do with your columns and that, like I've said before, pin it. Don't just tig it. You could just tig it and it would last forever. Or you could just tig it and it'd last half a race. It's one of them things. So I always pin it. And all it is 4mm 316 stainless steel rod. Strong stuff. So I drill through, once I've tigged it, I drill through just beyond the tig. This is 4mm, so I use a 3.9 drill bit. So it's got a bit of a press fit. Cut it off with a junior hacksaw, file it back, and then just touch the top with the tig. Just like a baby rose weld. You're not rose welding it, you're just holding the pin in place. It's just to hold it in. You're not actually rose welding it. You can just put it in one place. So all you're doing is fusion welding the two together, but you don't want to overheat or over melt the material around the pin. The pin will take a lot more heat to melt than the CDS. So you don't want to overheat the material around the CDS, if you get me, if you go around the pin. So it's just to hold it in. Then that is pinned as you are, as you wanted. I've made the aluminium bush for there. So I initially made it out of polyethylene, this, just to hold it in place, yeah? So now that is in. And we've got our grub screws in there for adjustments and to hold the bearing to the collar, and then there's two on the back to hold the collar onto this. You don't want anything moving. We've cut down to length, so we are nice and the desired length now. And then we had this. This is for steering angle, for like your data logging. And when you watch them on TV, you can see the steering wheel in the corner. That's what this is for. Now I don't know if you'll pick it up, but I have to make a bush to go on the inside, because the ID was too big for my CDF. So I just made a little bush. It's got little grub screws, and that'll fit on there, like with a slight gap behind. And there'll be like a motor here. And there's a really small belt that goes on. Yeah, and then we've got our doofer. You want that a nice snug fit as well. So once all this is finished, then I'll weld that on. Not until I'm finished. Yeah? So right, that is steering column completion. So now we're going to go on to the seat rails. Now this is what I've come up with so far. He wanted them as low as you could get them to keep the seat low. Now as you can see, I'm pretty low. Yeah? We are pretty much in line with the top. Right? Now these, both of them are also tied in to the main chassis leg that comes down here. So these are going to be really tough. So basically, let's start from the scratch. These are just sitting in here, by the way. Ding. This one's a little bit tight to get out. So we'll get rid of these for a minute. So basically, as you can see, what we've got here is this. Now, this square section, you normally can't see. It's normally like that. Yeah, both sides are the same. But along here, there's a row of spot welds, right? So you've got one here, and there's one there. There is loads, but you only need to find a couple of them. Draw a line about 15mm below. That's your cut point. because you want material to bend over so you can weld these together. Yeah, this is quite big, so you can just leave however much you want. Say there's probably 1.5 inches there. I've left a little bit more there. Still some to come off this yet. So you just cut that section out basically. Hammer that down, because that's normally up at an angle. So that gives you this much more space to move your seat left. Yeah? Because normally, you gotta remember the seats are up high. So you need to get your bucket seat as far over as you can. So utilise this strengthener that's underneath the floor. But once you've cut this, you've got to hammer that over. So make sure you leave, say, the 15mm underneath the spot weld to knock it over, so you can weld it along there. Like, it hasn't be fully welded, but welded. So that helps bond this to this, not just relying on the spot welds. Same here. All this will get welded. Cap on the end, cap on the end. Now for this, what you do is you put your 1-inch box section laid across here. Get your distance that you want it back, which I was supplied. This is where you wanted it, so that's where it is. Draw 2 lines and cut your top skin off, right? Just the top skin. Then if you look through there, you'll see the chassis leg, right? You see how I've cut into the chassis leg? Gone down, across and up. That, you've got to work out your measurements. I've done it on my box section. It's just proud. Yeah? See what I mean? It's just proud. So that way I can get a nice weld around all of this material. Because all of this is going to get fully welded to this. You need a slot at that end. Basically, the plate we're putting on here comes across, down, through, because it's got to hang below, because this is below. Yeah? Because that is below the surface. So you've got to have it hanging underneath. Yeah? This end's easy enough. There's nothing on there, because it just comes straight across. Yeah? So you've got to make sure that you cut just enough material out of here to hold this where you want it. So we are in the chassis leg. You don't want to have a gap really, because the chassis leg is then helping to support this. But once this is in, and we have welded the chassis leg to the box section all the way around, this chassis leg there then will become stronger than factory, because we are adding a cross section to it. Yeah, so this leg cannot compress. So adding this bar in here is actually strengthening this section of floor, because we're removing thin flat steel, tin steel, and replacing it with box. Yes, we're adding a little bit of weight, but we are not losing any structural. Do you know what I mean? And the same on the back. We've cut. Shut up. We are cutting to the chassis leg only a little bit. She sits on top of this section, so it comes through here and out the back. Yeah? It's all about taking your time and working out the best for what you've got. And you also need to try and make sure that they stay on the same plane. Yeah? You don't really want it being all over the place. You want to try and get it on the same plane. Do you know what I mean? So I'll show you my legs. These are what I've made. So this is the front one. This is the back one. It's very simple. 3mm box. So it's 1 inch by 3mm wall box. We've got end plates, which are 3mm, shaped to one to the tunnel and one to the inner sill. The inner sill one has got a bit of an off square to it, because it's just the shape of the head. You can really wang your welder up on this 3mm. You can get some really tidy little welds on there. Inside the tube, I drilled through for an 8mm. Yeah. Then I flipped over, put the 8mm back in, and then opened it up to a 16mm. And I made some 16mm bungs tapped them out, knocked them in, welded them up. And that is a very simple seat bar, but incredibly strong. You know, these would hold a big person. Do you know what I mean? And then also, once these are tied into the chassis leg and welded all the way around, welded all the way across the top, they're not gonna move. Yeah? So you see how that one, you have to come down to the bottom of the box, but it has to fit through the slot. Ah, it's got my finger. There you go. See? Solid. So then all this is going to get fully welded up. This will get welded to the back of this across, and then it will get welded around. And then the same on this side. Can you see how that was, why that was off at an angle now? Because this is an angle. You know, all this will get welded. Once both of these two are tied into the chassis legs and into both sides, and then don't forget as well, you've got your seats coming, rails coming this way. This has got adjustable sliding rails in it. Because when you do like some endurance, you've got 3 or 4 drivers, one's 6 foot, one's 5 foot. You need the adjustability. Yeah, so they're the seat rails. It's a nice, simple job. And if you're just nicking that corner, it gives you an extra about 1.5 inches to move your seat over to gain access to get, well, you want your, this needs to be in the middle of there, but then this needs to really be as close to the centre of the seat as possible. Yeah, you've got to have a nice, comfortable seating position in your car, haven't you? Yeah, that's about it. Thought I'd just show you what those little bits and bobs I've done. Also, I've tubbed the arches on the front. I forgot to tell you in the last one. That is an absolute pain in the backside to do. I've chopped about that much out of it. And all you do is you cut along the edge of the original arch, which would be like down there. So you cut down there. You take the spot welds out, remove this lip. Then you get some TIG wire and make a new arc coming to this point. Then you cut that out. So you end up like a sliver like that out. And then you just beat the crap out of it with a big hammer till it comes up. Right, so there we go. So that's welded. The bush is made for there. We have made a sleeve for the steering thingy, bobby thing. Columns the right length. Seat bars. Hopefully today, once I get back on my bike ride, I'll get all this welded up first. Then these will get welded in. Square true. What I'll do is I'll put the rails on that way to make sure nothing moves. It shouldn't do, because as you can tell, it's pretty tight. But then all this is going to get welded the ends, all welded across there, welded to the chassis leg underneath, both. That is going to be solid. And then we need to get onto the air jacks, which is going there, look. See the hole? But I had some material come and it's the wrong size. I said I need the ID to match that. There's 4mm difference. Fine. Quick update on BMW seat rails for your bucket seats to get your seat as low as you can get it. Right? There we go. I might come back and do a bit of welding and add it to the end of the video. I'm not sure, but if I do, you'll see it now. If I don't, I'll catch you in the next one. See you later, people. Just to add, for welding this kind of stuff, I mean, I'm not telling anyone how to suck eggs and all that shit, but this is 3mm cold steel, as in, the way I class it is it's cold steel. It takes heat to penetrate, because it's so thick. The thicker you get, the colder it physically is to touch. The thinner it is, the warmer it is. So the warmer it is, the less amps you need. The colder it is, the more amps you need. So I call it cold steel. So this is 3mm. The floor in these BMWs, apart from being shit, is thin. And I'm just going to say, let me get a TIG rod. If I grab a TIG rod, I'll grab one of these thin ones. Whoop. Let me just give you a show on what I'll be doing. So all of this is 3mm. All of this is 3mm. Especially this will be this will take some amps because it's on an edge, but this will take less because this is a radius edge and this is a flat edge. You'll always burn away a flat edge easier. So what I'll be doing with my MIG gun is basically I'll be aiming at the 3mm all the time. But I won't just be like this. What you do is you come in, you arc up, you go power, power, away, power, away, power, away. So you're pointing at this and then you're sort of giving it a flick, flick, flick. So you're putting maximum heat into this and then just a small amount of heat into this. Yeah, because this needs small power, this needs big power. Same up here. I'll be aiming at the big steel. This is your parent steel, say. This is your child steel. I'll be aiming at the kids and I'll be doing shh, and then just quick flick, shh, quick flick, shh, quick flick, shh, quick flick. Yeah? And that's how you end up with like these welds. These, I call them stacking dimes with a MIG or something instead of, I don't know what, yeah. Well, basically that's it. I was aiming at the big stuff. So aim in, bring it away, aim in, bring it away, bring it away. Yeah, so you're going power, touch, 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 touch. Because if you just try and drag, if you try and put your thing right in the corner, you just could blow this out. Because this will overheat before this has even got warm. Do you know what I mean? I think that's how you just end up with like wells like this. It's not, you can't just bring it out the parent metal and bring it over, but I like to pair them, like just to give it a quick snot over. Yeah. Right. Anyway, I thought I'd just add that. So you're not thick, thin. Aim for the thick, flick it onto the thin. Yeah. That's how I do it anyway. Right. See you in a bit.